All right, I'd like to call the Stockbridge Well Stewardship Commission meeting to order for July 14th, 2023 at 8:04 a.m. Morning, Sally. So, first up on the agenda is approval of minutes, and I did not get to June 9th. We've had those thunderstorms for 2 nights. I lost something happened with my modem and I had to reset it 2 days in a row, so I didn't get to do that. I finally said enough is enough. But we do have the May 12th and May 26th, which everybody had received in the past for approval in terms of minutes. So do I have a motion to pass?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Michael Nathan is aye. Mike Buffoni?
Aye.
Okay, so unanimous. All righty. And this, I'm going to rely on you real quickly, Michael, if you can manage the dredging working group update, that last meeting that you had that I couldn't be at.
Can you hear?
Yes.
At the last meeting, there was, not so easy to, I should have written notes for this. We were GZA, three members of GZA, Pat Kennelly, Greg Wellenkamp, and myself. And at that meeting, basically, the concept of testing the dredging soil, because the soil or the whatever they tested years ago came out with an elevated arsenic reading. And the concept in a nutshell is that we can't put more soil or whatever we're going to put material onto the dry land. It can't be worse than what the dry land in Bullard Woods already has. And what we realized is we're not going to be doing mechanical dredging. We're going to be doing hydraulic dredging. So we're going to go back to the government agency and ask them if we can just test the material that we're going to put on it. Before it was done that we were going to go down into the ground, and that ground under the silt had the higher levels of arsenic, and we're hoping that this new testing will show lower amounts of arsenic. We're not sure where it came from. We're thinking that maybe it came from the chemicals that were put in the 70s, but we're not positive. So we also have to test Bullard Woods. That's one issue, and we sort of came to the conclusion that we have to do the testing of the silt. The second thing is that we sent our lake management plan to NHESP, and we have not heard yet anything from them. And we requested GZA to set up a meeting with NHESP so that we can push them along a little bit, because if we have a meeting, we're hoping that they will have read it by that time to discuss it with us. And I think that's pretty much in a nutshell what was discussed.
Okay, a couple questions. How long ago was that silt tested? How many years ago?
Oh, so the silt test is only allowed to remain valid for 3 years. And it was tested before, well, let me put it this, I don't know the year, to be honest, but I know it was tested while we were still doing the mechanical, when we were still thinking of doing the mechanical dredging. And we've been looking at hydraulics now for about 4 years now, I would say.
At least, yeah. So I'm wondering, why haven't we retested the silt so that it would be current at least?
Well,
I would think that would be a requirement.
Yes, but one of the things we have to understand is, I feel that we have to get NHESP aboard because they're really because they're really the ones that are the most stringent on all the issues that we have. The DEP is not quite as stringent, but remember that these tests only are allowed to last for 3 years, and they cost about $40,000 to $50,000 was a price that was given to us in the lake. So just randomly doing it until we know we have more of a clear sight, I don't think it makes sense. I personally don't. I mean, it's up to the group and up to the select board, whatever, to go into the testing if we don't have a window that within 3 years we're going to know the verdict from NHESP and from the DEP. Otherwise, we're going to be spending another amount of money, same amount of money, to redo the test after 3 years.
All right, so if I understood what you said, it sounded like you were implying that we would ask if we could randomly test
No,
as is taken out?
no, not randomly. I apologize if I'm not making myself clear. There's 2 basic layers to the bottom of the lake that we're only now with hydraulics taking out the top layer, which is silt, which is really biomass. But when we did the mechanical, we were going below the biomass and
Okay.
actually taking soil or hard ground from underneath the biomass.
Okay, but that's all dated, so
Yeah.
Pat, did you have a comment?
Oh, Pat, thank you.
Yeah, I have a couple. First of all, the last testing was done in 2014. And as Mike said, that was based on conventional dredging, where in the outlet, we were actually going to go down 7 feet to the bottom. And in the current iteration of the hydraulic dredging, we're only going to take 2 to 3 feet of silt off the top. So today, literally this afternoon, GZA is meeting with DEP to talk to them about the parameters of what needs to be tested in terms of the sediment from the lake. The other thing that was agreed on in the meeting is that 3 things need to happen this summer. One is that the sediment from the lake needs to be tested. 2, the soil from Bullard Woods needs to be tested, because as Mike said, you need to understand the relationship between those 2 things and whether we'll be able to go as planned and take the sediment from the lake and put it into Bullard Woods. And then the third thing that GZA agreed to get done this summer is they have a particular contractor that they want to bring in to just look at the lake and look at the overall project and perhaps bring up things that we may not have thought about up until this point. So that was pretty much the outcome of the last meeting we had with GZA.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Pat. Okay, and
I have a question.
yes, Sally.
So my understanding was that the silt deposit was 16 feet. Why are you only thinking about taking out 2 or 3? Pat?
Go ahead, Pat.
Well, basically, so I believe GZA's plan, and it comes out to like 57,000 cubic yards that will be taken out. And Greg Wellenkamp would be better able to answer why it came down to the 2 or 3 feet. We don't know that it's cost yet because we don't have cost estimates, which is another issue that we need to get to this summer. So frankly, I should get back to you with that answer because I don't have it off the top of my head, unless Michael can address it.
Well, there were emails, there is a formula or there's an amount that NHESP felt comfortable. I don't know if it's 2 or 3 feet. It may be even more than that, but I'm not sure. As Pat said, I think we have to address it. But the key to this takeaway from the meeting was that even if it's more than 2 or 3 feet, is that we want to test the biomass, not everything that's underneath, not the hard ground, which we're no longer going to be touching.
But if you have 16 feet of biomass, which is what I understood from the
We don't have,
last round.
Sally,
Wait a minute. If there's 16 feet of biomass and you're not taking all of it, my concern from the Conservation Commission would be, so if there's more toxic stuff down underneath, if you take off the top layer, is it not going to expose the more toxic stuff down below?
I can't answer that.
Well,
How do we
I mean,
know?
somebody's going to have to answer it sometime because
Yeah, but
when it
Sally-
comes before the Conservation Commission, I guarantee you, I'm going to ask that question.
Right,
Sally,
and how do we know it's 16 feet? Because it can't be 16 feet everywhere.
There's
No.
no 16-foot depth in the channel.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Eight is the most you're gonna get.
Okay, but
Yeah, and
16 was the number that was
But a
thrown
large
around
amount of the
originally.
dredging is going to be, in terms of the cubic footage, is going to be that channel and coming up and behind the island. So, I mean, that's a large percentage of what's taken out, and there certainly isn't 16 feet there, that we know. I think it's a legitimate question, though, in terms of how much you're going to remove and how far down and what areas at more depth do we have toxic material that we do have to worry about. But the testing, I think, is going to be critical.
Yeah,
to
but
know
if
it's
you're
there
not
and at what depth.
testing what's down below that you're then exposing.
Well,
Well,
no,
we
I think
we
it's
don't know
critical
that.
that we know,
Yeah.
we test it and we know at what level do we find X, Y, or Z that's harmful. You know what I'm saying? It's like only going down a couple feet isn't going to help you. But maybe the testing should be, and it should be in the various areas that we're going to dredge, and then do it at different levels so that you know what's at this depth in this area. You go down farther, what's at that depth? Go down farther, what's at that depth? And so that we know what that stratification is of what's been deposited. Gary?
Arsenic is a naturally occurring element in nature. We have to find out what the natural level is and how much above it we are. I mean, we met maybe, a tiny bit above it. Arsenic sounds bad. It is, but not the stuff we find in the naturally occurring state. So, I mean, but it is a consideration, but we've got to find out what the base is, what's natural and what's man-made.
And what's actually there and at what depth, I think is going to be important. I think particularly for the Conservation Commission,
And-
to have that piece of data to make
One
a
other-
decision
One
on.
other thing is I remember from years ago, there are different thresholds that we have to stay below if we don't want to trigger like a national heritage. And I think we may be trying to stay below one of those levels so that we don't have to bring in more agencies like Army Corps of Engineers or something like that to do this dredging.
Right, that has to do with the total cubic feet that
Yeah.
are being removed, yeah.
But also, this immediate test that we're trying to do, we're trying to accomplish two things. One is to understand what is in the dredged material that we're going to take out, because that needs to be comparable or less contaminated than whatever we find at Bullard Woods. So until we have those two pieces of data, we don't know if we can proceed with the engineering plan the way it is. And that is a DEP concern. It's not an NHESP concern. It has to do with the composition there. Now, if we're talking about doing a whole bunch of other testing at different levels, that has a different purpose in my mind. And that needs to be brought up and done, but that's not what we're trying to get done right now. We're trying to do these two things so we can figure out if we can proceed with the plan as drawn.
Right, understood, yeah. Michael?
Well, everybody understand, right? Pat explained it very well. We really don't know what the depth really is. I have emails that were sent by NHESP that their comfort level of how much to take out, which I can find. I'm sure they're in the town emails from Miss Deanne Merrow and from Jesse Leddick. The other thing is that
We're not getting copied on any of this, which would be really helpful.
these emails are probably, no, these emails were done when we had our former, these emails are maybe 5 years old or from the 2019. So they had given us what they felt comfortable at that time.
Which would still be helpful as a baseline for the Conservation Commission when we have to make the decision.
Yeah, but I'm surprised that you didn't get those copies. I'm surprised. They went to the town. They were just CC'd to people that were working with NHESP. They really didn't come directly to us. They came to the town administrator. I can't remember her name. Don, do you remember the?
Georgia.
Georgia?
No, Danielle Filio.
Danielle?
Danielle Filio.
Yeah, thank you. They went more to her, right? But they're there. I mean, I can find them.
She's not the one who's going to have to weigh in at the end. So, I mean, we really need the Conservation Commission to be looped into this.
Right. Well, all those emails are there.
But I don't have them.
Well, we can see that you get them, Sally. I'll try
I
to see if
can't-
you get them if I
I
can.
can't help
locate
you
them.
with that. Yeah. You know, you got to go to the town administrator, the current one. I'm sure if she goes back to emails from NHESP, they'll be there.
Okay. All right. I will ask. Anybody can find them. Teresa can, so.
Yeah. If you have a problem finding them, get back to me.
Okay. Do you have them all still retained?
I think I do. I think I have them. Yeah, I got a new email and a new computer and whatever, but I'm pretty sure when I go into Google Mail that it'll come up.
Okay.
All right.
All righty.
Less athletic, I think, pretty much.
Okay. Any other questions or comments about dredging from anyone? No? Okay, moving on. This is going to be quick. Water chestnut remediation update. I asked Mike Canales if he'd received a report and he said he would look into it, but I haven't heard anything back. So I'm presuming he does not have a full report yet. Gary, do you have any information, or Michael, Nathan, have you noticed? I mean, when they stopped, or are they still, I'm sure that they're done at this point.
Yeah. That's all I know.
That's all we know? Okay. Yeah, Pat?
I had gotten actually through Chuck Corer a report. They've been out twice in June, and I don't have it right in front of me, but literally they took out something like 57 plants as opposed to the several hundred they took out last year. And so directionally, we're going the way we need to. And are happy that we have found fewer plants than we did certainly a year ago. And as we know, they can remain dormant for 10 years. So the price of controlling these things is going to be vigilance. But that was what happened in June. Now, Roxanne, I'm not sure. I would assume that they're going to go back in at least once or twice more in the summer as they did last year. But that's what happened in June.
All right, thank you, Pat.
I think Chuck is all over this.
Chuck Corer?
Yeah. Because he reported to the Concom about that and said exactly what Pat said, that it was significantly less than the year before.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and they're launching from his place. So you're right, Sally, he is all over it. It's
That's
great.
why
Yeah,
he's highly aware of what's going on.
which is
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. The more eyes you have on it, the better. All righty. Stakeholder updates. Anybody have updates? Sally? Nothing? I have nothing. Nothing. Gary?
Just that dock issue. I should put.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about that.
I spoke with a member of DCR last week, and he suggested that we repurpose the docks that are down at the near the skateboard park. There's a 20-foot or 25-foot ramp and kayak boarding and some dock arrangements. And he suggested that we find out who owns it, and I guess the town owns it.
It was financed by CPA money, so.
Okay, so basically the town owns it. So if there's no other use for it in town, I talked to Mike and he said he'll look into it and maybe get the ball rolling.
It was supposed to go to the
It was
town
supposed to
beach.
go to the
They
beach,
didn't want
yeah.
it. Because they moved the kayak rack. So they don't have to go through all the weeds.
Yeah, but they got funds, CPC funds.
Right, exactly.
To remediate that part of the shoreline also.
Well, they moved the kayak racks over to the
That
other.
had nothing, that
Yeah.
had nothing to do with kayak racks. That
Yeah.
had to do with getting the Phragmites out of there
Yeah.
and replanting
Yeah.
with native plants.
Yeah.
Money was received to do that.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened. So another thing, you can help me on that one. You
Yeah,
and I can both
I've had
bring that
no
up.
success. I mean, I have to say, we spent $60,000, I think, on that dock.
Yeah, worth 100.
And
And
the
we
fact
spent
that
money
it
fixing it too.
got taken away in a storm or in the winter and then just kind of forgotten about. I mean, this is a significant chunk of money from the town that the townspeople voted
Right.
to have put into, as being something special for the townspeople to be able to use.
Right.
And the fact that we're just kind of going, oh, well, it's really not
Well, no,
good.
and we spent money repairing it after
Yes,
that
exactly.
incident. And so we shipped it out and we shipped it back and we spent money repairing it. And then we made the decision to put it at the town beach. Now it hasn't gone there. And I thought that was a good solution.
Yeah.
Because we now have an alternative down at the park for getting in. They did,
Right.
more natural, something that won't be swept away in ice.
Right.
So, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me why these things haven't been followed through on, but you and I can both try to spearhead this, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, I'd keep Nick Fredsel with Parks and Rec involved, because I
Yeah.
know he was pretty involved with that
Yeah, definitely.
that
Nick is
dock
another,
system.
a good third point of,
Yeah.
let's all focus on trying to get this stuff accomplished. That and remediating that shoreline, which I thought was wonderful. And it's like, no, it just has to happen. That's not that hard. The money is there. You just have to hire someone to do it.
Yep.
Okay.
Actually, I do have one thing. We had a report that there was a citizen on the lake who was going to spray herbicides on an invasive species that this person has on his or her property. And Pat, if you could put out a bolo or whatever it is you do to remind people that they may not use herbicides within 200 feet of the lake, that would be really helpful.
Okay.
Thank
We
you.
can- We can do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Michael?
We'll be going out Monday for sampling and data collection. Our sond is off in Colorado, still getting repaired. So GZA's coming out, which they usually do in July anyway, to grab, we'll do the sampling and then while they're doing the data collection, and then all the brooks, I'm sure, are running just fine. So we'll collect all the inlets to the brooks, and that'll be done for June. And they might actually come back the last week of June too. I know they wanted to try to come out twice this month, but they are scheduling. Huh?
You mean July?
I'm sorry, yeah, July. So, after all these storms we've had Monday, if anything kind of moved around or whatever, we couldn't go up because our sond that's not working. So the sond is okay. It's the actual handheld unit that plugs into it. It just keeps powering off by itself. I tried a bunch of stuff over the phone with the service guys, because we have a service contract with it that the town signs every year. So it got shipped out this week. So hopefully we'll get it back next week.
All right, thank you. The next thing that I have, and I don't see Jamie, it looks like Jamie was here, but then maybe she got called away. And I have reorganization on here because we have now, Jamie is now the new select board representative. However, we're still missing somebody from the Board of Health. So that was being requested that the Board of Health put someone forward. And we do have a new person on the
Yeah, we
Board of Health, right?
Liza Lefferman, yeah.
So do we know, is
I'm sure if we told him,
Elias, you think he would be?
I'm sure he would be available, yeah.
Okay. So as a member of the Board of Health,
I'll mention them.
Could you bring it up and see if we can move it forward?
Yeah.
And then maybe we just want to postpone reorganization until we have a full body again, which makes sense to me if everybody's okay with that. I just as soon do it now and not have to be.
I thought Jim
chair,
Willis
but
was
I'm not
the
anybody.
representative.
No, Jim resigned
Oh,
a while back. I think he's pretty slammed. He's- And I think they had a really horrible time during COVID. So
Yeah.
it was extremely stressful and they're still really busy, so. But at any rate, if we can, does everybody agree we can just like postpone that until like maybe we have a full complement of members and everyone is here and available? Okay. All righty, any other questions out there from the public? Yes, Michael?
Just want to give you an update on the harvester, and it's been a little bit slow going because first of all, the weather has been awful, and I didn't want anyone really going out if on their weather computer says thunderstorms, you don't want to be out there. And we've had like out of nowhere these thunderstorms that were pretty serious. So we've been going down the outlet, down to the all the way down. This week I couldn't go because of health and because of the weather, but we have Peter Voorhees and Stu have been also now running the harvester around the bowl. And at the last SBA meeting, we were a little concerned that with one machine that the highway department wouldn't be able to, we wouldn't know when they took away the lilies or the milfoil from the back so that we can reuse it. And we were debating whether to have two machines, two harvesters on the bowl might make it easier for the town. But we haven't gotten any further, and I haven't spoken to you about it. And one of the concerns was the cost of bringing the second harvester, the bigger one, which is expensive to bring down. I think it costs around $4,000 to $5,000. Roxanne, you may know better, like $2,500 each way. And the SBA agreed that if we do that route, they would help us financially to cover some of the costs that the town feels is excessive or whatever, even though I don't know if it might be in their budget to bring it down. But right now they felt that only the smaller blue one was necessary. But if we need both to really cover the area as well, it was just brought to the attention that if it was a financial issue, the SBA would help cover some of that cost.
Okay. Well, we can follow up in terms of, but you haven't talked to Highway, you haven't talked to Hugh, and have you talked
No,
to
our
Michael
meeting was,
Canales?
no, our meeting was Saturday
Oh, okay,
and discussed this, and I haven't had a chance
okay,
to discuss it.
okay. Well, I can follow up with that also and just ask a few questions in terms of, what their schedule is in terms of unloading and what their
Yeah.
workload is, because I know I saw them, they were
I had
down
asked-
by
I had
the
asked
this
you-
district yesterday. I don't know what they were doing, but I don't know how busy they are. And he does have a full complement of employees though this year. So he's, well-staffed.
Oh, yeah, he's great, but we didn't know, none of the drivers knew when it was being unloaded. So I'd asked you yesterday that when they unload, they text me so I can let everyone know that the machine is available rather than us guessing whether it was available or not.
Okay. Sally,
Okay.
you had a question, you had a comment?
I said I would bet they're up to their ears with all the storms and
Yeah.
everything, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
Okay.
want to overburden you, but it just needed communication.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I think that's a good plan. I mean, just have them text you and then you disseminate that information.
right.
Yeah, sounds good to me. And you said two names. I know Stu Yerman is doing it. What was the other name?
Peter Voorhees, he is Laura's, our former president, Laura Beasley's husband. He's a teacher in New York City, but now he's up here for the whole summer. And Stu went out with Peter yesterday to teach him how to use the harvester and
Okay.
reported that he did very well, that he
Okay.
was a natural.
Natural. All righty. Anything else, anyone?
We had a paddleboard stolen from the boat ramp up during the week.
What did you have stolen?
Paddleboard.
A paddleboard?
Somebody left their paddleboard and they had it locked to one of the pylons there, and somebody broke the lock and stole it.
Oh, my Lord. Did it get reported to the police?
Yes,
Good.
a lot of, they're looking around for it, but I don't hold out much hope. It's probably in another county by now.
Or another state, maybe.
Is there provision for leaving things
No,
down?
no,
out
it
the
was
boat?
not, it was
So-
not what we call a really smart decision to
Yeah,
leave
no.
something like that. I told her, I said, if you get another one, and if you have to leave it, we'll put it in the shed for you. So,
But is that even reasonable? I'm sorry.
no, it shouldn't have been left there. It was
But the town, I think if you start putting people's paddle boards in the shed, that becomes a liability.
yeah, it does, but.
You're setting a precedent that,
Yeah.
because you
Without
can't then
any
refuse anyone
formal-
I
else.
made the offer, I could withdraw it too.
Without any formal,
Can they put them on
Process.
kayak racks or are they too big?
Yeah, we don't have a kayak rack down there.
No, I know, but go put it at the beach.
Well, I think the problem was actually moving it. I don't know what the reason that she left it there, but it was not a really good, smart thing. She even admitted it.
Not a good decision, yeah.
So.
No, and it's sad though, because I know like it was
They're expensive.
very sad when people do things like that. And it was like a year ago, I think it was over by White Pines Beach. I think there was a kayak or something or canoe stolen. So it's sad, rare, but sad still.
It's happening though. I know Beechwood lost one or two last year.
Really?
Yep. And we don't hear about them up here, but
Ay,
it's around.
yeah, I know. All righty, so assuming no one else has any more comments, speak up if you do. All right, I'm gonna move to adjourn.
Okay.
So moved.
All right.
Aye.
We're
Thank you.
adjourned. Thank you, everybody.